Are you ready for another Garry Kitchen's GameMaker tutorial? Boy, I sure am! Today's game is a frog game where he jumps across the road. Kind of like Frogger, but we can't say that because it would be copywriting. I made this game myself on Garry Kitchen's GameMaker, and you can too! Keep watching! I'm gonna win.
We're going to start off here by making a quick sprite. It's going to be our frog. If you want to know more about how to use the Sprite Maker, I made a tutorial video of it. And if you're interested, you can tap on the link above. After I make my frog sprite, I'm going to save it as F1UP, which stands for Frog 1 Up. Now I have added arms and legs to my frog. To make it look like it's jumping, I'm going to save it as F1 space jump for Frog 1 Jump. Now I made a frog look like he's sitting to the left. I'm going to name him F3 space L for left. Now I made him jumping to the left. I'll save him as F3JL for jump left. Facing down, F2 space DN. Jumping down, F2 space JDN. Made a frog to the right, F3 space R for right. And a frog jumping to the right, F3 space JR jump. Now to make my log, I'm going to go make it single color so I have better graphics resolution and all that stuff. And here we go. It's going to look good. Maybe I should stretch it out when I'm done, but we'll get this done here. I'm going to call this probably log 1 or something. Let's make a car now. Frame 1, we'll put the tires in here. And I go up and I'll put the body of the car in here. It's going to look good. It's going to be a hot rod. Hot rod. Vroom, vroom. And I'll put this on here. And I got to get that. Go to frame 2. Now I'm going to work on frame 2 because it's going to animate. Because the wheels are going to go around. And yeah, almost done. Getting there. Yeah, change the tires. And save it as car 1. I'm also going to make a truck and save it as truck 1. I made a side view of a frog. I think I'm going to call it F Jump. This right here has 5 frames. It's supposed to look like the frog's going into the water. I think I'm going to name it FX2 because it looks like an X and it's a frog. And the last sprite I had to make with a little bubble that says you win because I'm going to win. I always win. Then I went to the Garry Kitchen's disc and I picked out a couple songs to put in the game. Yeah. And the last thing I did, I made a couple sounds on the sound maker. Does that sound like a frog getting smashed to you? Now I loaded up the scene maker. You want to have a look? This is the first scene. But my favorite scene I made is this one. Have a look. We're going to start off here by putting a scene in. Scene 1 is Sea Frog 2. We're going to use that one. Let's have a look at it. Click run. Yep, that looks like it. I suppose since I have this up here, I'm going to add scene 2 before I forget. Scene 2 will be CH. I suppose now I better add my first sprite. Let's find sprite 1 is... I think I'm going to save sprite 1 for my main character. I'm going to change it to sprite 3. We'll start with 3. We're going to make our sprite 3 our log sprite. I'm going to make an animation speed for our log sprite. I know we didn't make a second frame in our log sprite, so it won't animate. But maybe later on in the game, I want to swap it out with a turtle or something that does animate. So for now, I'll just set it at 20. Sprite 3 needs to have a direction, because it needs to know which way it's going. So let's go find direction. Put it in there. Now to change it to sprite 3... and change the direction to right, which is 64. We need a Y position for our sprite. Y is up and down. Well, let's choose it from the list here. Change it to sprite 3. I want my first log to be right in the water. So sprite 3, I'll put it at 83. You know what I gotta do next? I gotta find an X position for my sprite 3. Let's make the X position 50. That sounds good. Let's see how the placement was. Take the arrow and put it on run. Yup, there's our log. It's in the middle of the water. We need to make it move. So let's scroll over here to movement speed. Movement speed sprite 3. We'll make it 25. That sounds about right. Oh, look at there. Rolling down the river. Oh, yeah. Now to make the second log. But to save time, I'm going to go copy. I'm going to select everything from Sprite 3 here, go down to copy again, and press it right there. Next, I'm going to go to the copied portion and change from Sprite 3 to Sprite 4. And do that to all of them. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Now my second log on Sprite 4 here, I don't want to go right, I want it to go left. All I have to do here is change it from 64 to 192. I also have to lower the log on the screen. You don't want to be on the same plane. To have your sprite go lower on the screen, you have to raise your Y position higher. I'm going to bump my Y position from 84 to 98. I suppose I better change my X position too. I don't want one log right on top of the other one. I want to stagger them a little bit. So I'll go from 50 to 120. Let's see what it looks like now. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Two logs floating down the river, crossing each other. Now just like before, I'm going to copy everything from Sprite 4 here. Now put the arrow where you want to copy it to, hit the button on the joystick and it copies. Now let's change the values. Change it from 4 to 5, 4 to 5, 4 to 5, 4 to 5, and 4 to 5. Going to change the Y position here from 98 to 113, because that sounds like a good number. As for the X position, I'll change it to 75. This log, I want to travel right, so I'm going to change the direction to 64, which is right. Let's go up to run and have a look. Oh boy, they're going everywhere. Guess what we're going to do next? We're going to copy all the settings for Sprite 5 and put them down below again. Go down to copy, select the spot, hit the button. I'll move this up a little bit so I can change the values again. So the copy part, I'm going to change the sprite to Sprite 2. And I'll change this one to 2. And I'll change this one to 2. And this one to 2. And that one to 2. Let's go up here and change the sprite. I'm going to change Sprite 2 to Truck 1, because that's our truck. Go down to animation. We're going to animate our truck at 30. I seem to remember when we made our sprite, it was facing to the left. So I'm going to change the direction to 192 left. We're going to make our truck's Y position 196. That should be far enough. Let's make our truck's X position 46. That sounds good. Truck movement speed. Let's make that 112 miles an hour. That's cranking. It's time to go up to run to see how it works. Ooh boy, zoom, look at it go by really fast now, 112 miles an hour. It's time to go down and copy again. Select the text for Sprite 2, go down copy, put the arrow on the line you want to copy it to, and press the button on the joystick. Let's scroll this down here. Let's go up to the portion you just copied. We're going to change the values again. This time we're going to make it Sprite 6. And of course, every one of these lines I'm going to change to Sprite 6. Let's change our Y position to 156. Movement speed, well, we'll make that 90. I want to take a peek at it. So far, so good. Time to do some copying again. I'm selecting everything from Sprite 6. Going down to copy. Put my arrow where it's supposed to be. Press the button. Gotta scroll down now. Don't want to modify the wrong area. We want to modify the copied area right here. Let's change all these Sprite 6s to 7s. 6 to 7, 6 to 7. Let's change the direction to 64 right. We're going to change the truck's Y position to 170 and the X position to 175. You know, I think I'm going to leave my movement speed at 90. You can always change them later. Speaking of that, I changed my mind. I decided to change the movement speed of truck 6 to 65. You see, I don't want them all going the same speed. Let's have a look. Hey, one's going backwards. Well, I got to fix that. I made a sprite called Car 1, and that car faces right. I'm going to put that in there instead of a truck, and it'll be facing the right direction. Time to go over and run. Have a look. Brum, brum, brum. There it goes. That looks good to me. We're allowed to have 8 sprites on here, so I might as well put one more car in here. I'll move this down here, and I'm going to copy. I'm going to select all these Sprite 7s here, and copy, select it, press the button, and there we go. Moving on down the road. Now let's modify these. Change these all to Sprite 8. Sprite 8, Sprite 8, Sprite 8, Sprite 8, and Sprite 8. I'm going to change the Y position to 210 and the X position to 162. I think I'll change the speed from 90 to 70. Let's go run it again. Oh, I can see all 4 cars and 3 logs. Now we gotta get our frog ready pretty soon. But before I start anything else, I'm gonna set a variable. We're gonna go up to set A. We're gonna set a value of A to 233. When you have a variable, it's a good idea to write them down. You'll forget later, so write them down. Grab a piece of paper.
So far, so good. Let's review this. We programmed all this on this sheet here, except for one thing. On the 3rd line, it says 1006. I put a label there. You don't have to do it yet, but I'm going to tell you to put it in there later. That's so we can jump to it later. And now that you're getting better at programming, I'm going to teach you in a different way. Yeah, a little bit speedier. I'm going to go faster. Can you keep up? All right, here it comes. Whoa. Yep.
The next command I want you to put down is clear score 1. We don't have a score yet, but we will, and we'll refer back to this later. We finally get to put in sprite 1 now, which is our frog sprite. Remember, we saved the sprite as F1 for frog 1. Next line, sprite 1, animation 30. Technically, I wouldn't have to put this line in here if your sprite does not animate. You're going to need a Y position for your sprite, 233, which just so happens to be the value of A, that letter you wrote down on that paper. Now set sprite 1's X position of 90. This game needs music, so we're going to put a song in here. The song is called Play. We got it off the disc. To the side of that, we're going to add a number, 1001. That way we can jump to it later. Let's add another number, 1002. We'll put it right next to the label. Sprite 1 is F1 up. Let's run it, see what we got so far. The frog is there, I just need to move him with the joystick, so we'll configure that next. At this line, if joystick 1 is up, then add the following lines. Set A equal to sprite 1's Y position. Write that on your paper. So if you think about it, every time your joystick goes up, it refreshes the value of A to wherever the sprite is. Next line, set A equals A minus 15. Wait a second. So we just told the computer that the value of A is the Y position of wherever sprite 1 is. Then we changed our mind and said, A's minus 15 of that. Well, why do we do that? Because we're not looking for where the sprite is. We want to know where 15 spots away from where the sprite is. So the computer reads from top to bottom, gets the current Y position, and then subtracts 15 from it, which gives you the value of A, the current value. Now we know the value of A, we're going to set sprite 1's Y position to A. This line will move our sprite 15 pixels up when the joystick is pressed up. So in this line, we're going to change sprites real quick. The new sprite will be F1 space JUP, and it's only going to be there for 0.1 seconds. When the frog jumps, don't you want to hear a jump sound? So sound channel 1 is F space jump. It makes a jumpy sound. Now we're going to add a line to pause for just 0.1 seconds. That way, you will be able to see the 2 different sprites flip-flop. It'll look like it's jumping. After the pause, we'll change sprite 1 back to F1 where it was originally. Finally, we're going to add an AND if. That tells the computer that we've done everything that's going to happen when the joystick is up. Let's say what we're going to do when the joystick 1 is down. You can cut and paste the variables and just change them. But let me show you what I did. So I set A as sprite 1's Y position, then I turned A to plus 15, not minus 15. Then I told the computer to put sprite 1 at position A, which is 15 off. Then sprite 1 is F2 space JDN. That's a frog jumping sprite. I made a sound of F jump again. I paused for 0.1 seconds. And then I changed the sprite back to F2. And at the end, AND if. If joystick 1 is left, then set B to sprite 1's X position. Write that down. And just like before, B equals B minus 10, not 15. So the frog doesn't go as many spaces left to right as it does up and down. But that's alright. Sprite 1 X position is B. Sprite 1 is F3 J space L. It might be a funny name for a sprite, but that's what we named the sprite that's jumping to the left. Sound channel 1 is F space jump. Then we're going to pause for 0.1 seconds. Then we're going to change the sprite back to F3 space L. Last here, we're going to have an end if. If joystick 1 is right, then set B at sprite 1's X position, just like before, then set B equals B plus 10. We're going to set sprite 1's X position as B. Now sprite 1, we're going to put F3 space J space R. The sound channel will be F jump again. Pause for 0.1 seconds. Then we'll make sprite 1 F3 space R. And if. Now we're going to tell the computer what to do if a sprite hits another sprite. So if sprite 1 hits sprite 3, remember, sprite 3 is the log on the very top. If sprite 1 hits it, sprite 1's direction will be 64 right. And sprite 1's movement speed will be the same as the log, which is 25. So when it jumps onto the log, it will move at the same speed to the same direction of that log. Now we're going to repeat on all the logs. So now if sprite 1 hits sprite 4, so if the frog hits the log 4, what are we going to have it do? Why, that's easy. We should just have it do the same thing it did when it hit the other log. But only difference is the other log is going the other direction, left. So we'll just change the values. Smart thinking. So sprite 1 direction will be 192 left on this log. The movement speed, we'll keep that at 25. And if. So there's one more log, and that's called sprite 5. And it's the third log down. It's already going right. So if sprite 1 hits sprite 5, we want our frog to go the same direction as the log, which is right. And we want it to go the same speed, which is also 25. And if.
Now let's do a little review here. We covered how to make your frog go up and down with your joystick. And we also covered what happens when he hits a log up above. Now, what we have to do is make it when he jumps off the log onto the grass so he doesn't move anymore. And that's next. It's gonna be fun.
If A is greater than 127, then remember A is the Y position of our frog, sprite 1. And if you look at the game board here, it just so happens that Y position 127 lands on the border between the water and the grass. We already covered what happens when the frog jumps into the log. He starts moving. But what if he jumps back onto the grass? We need him to stop moving. That's why we need to add the command, sprite movement speed 0. And if, after our frog jumps over the logs onto the other side of the river, we need his movement speed to stop again. I just happen to know that the border between the river and the grass on top happens to be Y position 75. So let's put that in our coding on our next line. If A is less than 75, then the sprite movement speed will be 0. And if. Let's test our game to see what we have so far. Add this line at the end. Jump to 1001. Let's run it. I can walk right through the cars. Jump. Jump. But look at. So when I jump on the log, I should move the direction of the log. But when I jump on the grass, he should stop moving. Just like that. Now we're going to delete our jump to line, the one that we used to test. Later on in the game, we'll put it back in. Let's see, where were we? If sprite 1 hits sprite 2 is one of those trucks. What are we going to have happen? I'll tell you what happens. We're going to change sprite 1 to F space X2. Then we're going to animate the sprite at 32. And the sound, we're going to make the sound called RC Crash. Next, we're going to pause for 0.2 seconds. And then we're going to jump to label 1002. Well, let's go jump up to 1002 and see what it says. It says sprite 1 is F1 space up. So it changes the frog back to a frog again. And after that, it resets the values to what we had in the beginning, so the frog goes back to the beginning, which restarts the loop. Let's go back to the end here. Add an and if. Moving on here, so if sprite 1 hits sprite 6, which is that other truck, then we're going to do the same thing we did with sprite 2. We're going to change sprite 1 to a sprite called FX2. Then we're going to animate at 32. In sound channel 1, we'll play the sound RC crash. We'll pause for 0.2 seconds and then jump to the beginning when we reset at 1002. If not, we'll end if. If sprite 1 hits sprite 7, which is the car, we're going to do the same thing as when it hits sprite 6, so you can copy the values down. And of course, the same thing when sprite 1 hits sprite 8. Just copy them all over. These next commands are going to be a little confusing to you, so let me see if I can explain them. Earlier, we told the computer what to do if a frog jumps on one of the log sprites. The only problem is, the logs are in the water, and the frog can't go in the water because we're going to make a command that if the frog goes in the water, he'll die, or at least he'll start from the beginning. Here, let me show you this whole page. You can understand a little bit better. See over here, there's a line that says, if sprite 1 hits color 2 or 3, then, well, color 2 or 3, that's blue, that's the river. If it hits that color, we're going to have all sorts of things happen. We're going to have the sprite 1 change to that X, that one that blows up. We're going to have its animation 32. We're going to play a sound of we're going to pause for 2 seconds and jump to 1002. Which will make you start all the way from the beginning. Durr! You would think that if a frog is on a brown log, it's not in the blue water, right? But according to the computer, the way it thinks is it sees a frog and a log both in the water. So what I'm going to do, if the frog is even touching sprite 3, 4, and 5, which are the logs, I'm going to bypass it and jump all the way to 1003 so it never sees that command. Moving up here, if A is less than 45, then we're going to add 100 points to the score. Oh, goody, that's because you got to the top of the screen. Moving up again, if the score is greater than 1,000, we're going to jump to 1004. We haven't put that in here yet, but we're going to have something good happen when you get up to there. There we have an end if, and jump to label 1001. We're also going to add a tag to this line of 1003.
If you hit run now, your game should play, but we need to have an ending. Yes, that'll be fun, where you can see my beautiful picture on there. Yeah, so let's go to the ending.
For the ending, we're going to start off with clearing sprite 1, adding a tag of 1004. We're also going to clear sprite 2, sprite 3, sprite 4, sprite 5, sprite 6, sprite 7, and sprite 8. Clear them all. Oh, what the heck? I'll clear the score as well. Song 1 is Jingle. It can be found on your Garry Kitchens disc. Display scene 2. We'll pause for 3 seconds so you can hear my song. And then sprite 1 will be U space STFR, which stands for You Save the Frog. Sprite 1 animation speed will go 19. Sprite 1's X position, 113. Y position, 121. Sprite 5 is S space jump. We're going to pause for 5.4 seconds. Set Sprite 5's X position at 160. Set its Y position at 175. The direction set to 192 left. Movement speed will go 5. Animation speed 30. Pause again for 5.4 seconds so you can watch my video. Display the other scene. Now jump to label 1006. Label this line 1005. Go way to the top and put 1006 on the third line down. Yeah, like I showed you before.
Now we can finally play our video game. Let's go! Oh, I won! I like to win! I'd like to thank everyone out there for watching my video tonight. And if you have any comments, leave them in the section below. Until then, like and subscribe, and see you later!